So
I'm
yeah,
cooking,
that's great.
still cooking dinner for this.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the same thing.
Dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky me. Mum made my dinner for me an hour ago.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You go there for the weekend, you said?
That's right.
Yep. And do you live nearby? Do you live in another?
Yeah, the outskirts of Ballarat. It's just like a 25-minute drive.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know someone, a few cousins live out there, Gordon.
Yeah, that's near where Mum lives, actually.
Or where she lives. And you live in town, like in Ballarat?
That's right.
You've got, did you go to school there?
When I was little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went to the.
Got like a community there, like people you know?
Not really, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, you said your two friends, the girl that got married.
Yeah, that's right. She lives.
Met at Tape.
I think it'd be Hillside. She lives in town.
Yeah.
I think it'd be regarded as Hillside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just outside of, like, what's it called? Like the yellow kind of, things at the border, and then you have like the, the long yellow brick kind of thing, like off to the, basically the corner, near the bridge. Marky knows what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
This is where you live.
Just outside of that. So yeah. I think, it would be considered Hillside.
So they're like little suburbs of Ballarat, aren't they?
Well, Hillside's not. That's
Hillside's just outside of Caroline Springs.
Yeah, Caroline Springs,
Caroline.
Deer Park, Melbourne.
Yeah. That kind of general area.
That's sort of part of Melbourne then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
On the way.
Yeah.
I've got lots of cousins and stuff. Live there. It's all the west, isn't it? Northwest, west side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming into Melbourne, just short of Melbourne, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was born in Ballarat, but we moved to Bendigo. I was 3, and then Horsham until 10, and then Dandenong. My
brother was born in Ballarat.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You have to be born somewhere. Yeah. Oh, shit. What happened to Maureen?
Did she just drop out?
Yeah.
Yeah, shit.
I hope she comes back.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right. How you been, mate? Anyway.
Good to talk to you, man. I was
sorry
of you when I saw yesterday's events.
Yeah, I didn't go. I just.
Yeah, I didn't either. But it's getting to the point where I think I'm pretty much gonna go.
Yeah. Look, it's not the first one.
Yeah. No, that's right.
And it won't be the last. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it was good that I didn't see any pepper spray being used this time.
Yeah, it's a bit hard when you have increased numbers, and there was probably double the amount.
Yeah,
was that the last one?
Well, would you say there were like 500,000?
More than that.
Yeah, I was thinking between 500,000 and 1,000.
Yeah. Oh no, it'd be more like maybe 2,000, 3,000.
Yeah, well, I think when it gets to the point where there's 10,000, then obviously they'll have no chance of basically pepper spraying and getting away with it pretty much.
As I said, 500 people, it's a nuisance.
Yeah.
10,000 people, it becomes an issue,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you can only have so many policemen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And I know our police force do a fantastic job, and I don't wish any harm against them or anything like that. I think they're with this issue of COVID and that, they're
Just
using
following orders.
Following orders, yeah, exactly, mate. What can I say? They have a bit of trouble, you know, and you know, I'm sure they're that they are doing the best job they can do. It looks like they've been told to stand down a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be, you know. That's the whole idea of protests.
Well, hopefully soon.
Make sure you know the person's point of view.
Yeah.
Is heard, and when you got a minority that are kind of saying, "Hey, you know, you need to listen," it becomes hard. But I noticed the media weren't talking about it too much.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
No, they posted one little video, and that's a narrative control factor. But unfortunately, for them, Facebook's great.
You know? Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, there's never been so much accessibility as there is now.
Oh, nah, 100%. And I feel like with the current state of the world, we will have clarity on the way the world will be going in the next few months. But yeah, it's a unfortunately no one predicted this to happen. Yeah, let's say not the generalized public. Where you know. You could go into conspiracy theories about, China.
Oh, well, just be, a conspiracy theory. Obviously, I know there's a chance it can be true, but there's also a chance it can be bullshit.
Well, that's it. And as I've discovered over my time into looking into that kind of stuff, you got to take it as a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I just said I had to leave and restart, but then I've just joined back to the meeting.
Thanks for coming back, Maureen.
Yeah. Well, my computer's nearly dead. It's what's it called, the battery, so it has to be plugged in. I didn't check. So you kept talking?
Yeah. That's right. I think it's pretty much how you know that a conspiracy theory pretty much checks out is if the circumstances back it up.
100%. Yeah. Facts generally outweigh wants and motives, and unfortunately, no government is fathomable in. Every government has some form of secrets that probably never ever get released to the generalized public.
Yeah, that's obviously extremely inconvenient for them.
Yeah. And as the history books go down, whoever wins, they tell the story.
Well, state Labor didn't table their evidence for obviously why we should have had the last lockdown, the Valentine's Day weekend lockdown.
Well, that's a game that they're playing with,
Yeah.
You can quite see with council culture, with Looney Tunes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to. Are trying to keep pushing the narrative that everything has to be a one thought mind, So, for example, you got these political correctness groups such as Black Lives Matter, that kind of stuff,
Third Loop Murder.
Yeah, they're funded by the very guys that are trying to spur this on, you know, and what they actually go against. It's such an interesting when you start looking into this stuff, you start seeing the world in a little bit of a different way than most people, because you start noticing, and you know, with
how would you think that you can present proof to people when we all seem to not really believe? Like, I'm willing to believe in what you're saying, but then I can listen to the other side, or
well,
not just go, oh, they're right too, or whatever.
yeah,
Just sort of go,
and this
true.
is a very good question, and my answer to that would be, I feel like it comes down to a matter of perception. So, for example, I've explained this to Troy before. No dictator will ever see themselves as a bad person, because they always have that point of view that they're doing the good, you know?
I can confirm, as a bit of a Pinochet fanboy, Pinochet actually believed that he was an angel sent by God to save Chile.
Exactly.
We had a few Chileans in my year, so I think like late 80s, wasn't it? Because they just were all there.
It was 1973 he came to power.
Oh, yeah. So
September the 11th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So like late 70s, the kids my age were brought over as babies. Kids.
Yeah, the latter half of the 70s and the entirety of the 80s.
Yeah.
And then the early 90s, he stepped down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, getting back to your question, Maureen.
Yeah.
So how to kind of get people awake? It's a very hard thing to do because of media and that kind of thing. The information is so widespread from both sides, you know. It's hard to pin down exactly what is fact. But after a while, seeing kind of what's happened over the last few years, I feel like it just takes time. It's not a very fast process. I feel like it need information, because of censorship and that, has been taken away, so people are struggling to find that information. So again, it's a very tricky question. How do we
I'm looking at different generations. That's why I'm interested in your generation. You said you're both around 30.
Yes, correct.
And then from your age younger, but I'm just sort of randomly, I think you would probably do this too. When you're looking at content, you're just looking for things that interest you. So like the best thing I watched today was the trigonometry interview with Jordan Peterson, but then I'll be watching kind of everything, but I'm trying to do what I think young people are doing, which is, it's like entertainment, but you don't want the fake bullshit of the media. Like, I don't know, Friendly Geordie's kind of idea that the media is completely bullshit, and you just listen to either YouTubers that are making sense and also research. Like, I love all the history, just all these people, young people that they're not looking for money, but they're just gathering, this is the history of, I don't know, I'm looking at bands from the 90s now, so I'm like, fuck, I didn't know that about the Foo Fighters I was watching today, just random. I don't even like them that much. It's like, I understand, this band from the 90s, or Nirvana, and someone has just put together, an hour video with probably weeks worth of research, and that's in everything. So you probably, I don't know if you can get the right information, because people they'll gravitate to one thing, like.
Well, I think if you're a libertarian, a right-wing libertarian or a left-wing libertarian, then I think obviously, what you believe is correct, if you know what I'm saying. Like you can absolutely obviously believe things that are objectively correct. But the top left-hand corner, and I know you guys know I hate the top left-hand corner.
Yeah.
They are not interested in facts because they want equal outcome.
Well,
it makes me nervous, about the facts, because it's like there are facts maybe that we're all missing. That's why I like this, because I want to hear the facts. Because you can argue the facts and you usually arrive at what is pretty much a fact, but then you have to add other facts to those facts, and
I mean,
it becomes this rabbit hole, doesn't it?
The libertarian right and the libertarian left, right? They're both right. They're both correct, but obviously the libertarian rights issue is economic freedom, and the libertarian left's issue is social freedom.
So who are the libertarian left? Would they be anarchists?
Did you say that you're that?
Huh?
Aren't Antifa, top left-hand corner, Marky?
Yeah, correct.
And you say they're libertarian.
They're pretty much communists.
Well, see,
Maoists almost,
left.
basically.
It's Antifa are a radical group out of the whole lot. That's that.
I said, pretty much Marxists. Sorry, Maoists.
So what's the definition of libertarian then? Because you said they're libertarian left.
Freedom. That you believe in individual freedom. If you're a libertarian, right or left.
Do they seem to? They sort of do, don't they? They think they do.
Yeah.
It's just that violence shit. I just reckon it's I don't mean to be gendered, or I do, but it seems like it's like a guy thing. I mean, it's not a guy thing, a typical kind of the old ways of men where you fight physically rather than talk about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like your generation and ours from the 90s, we're young Gen Xers with, I was thinking this today. We had the music, and you seem to have, younger, is like discussion and information, and
it's a much better way, isn't it, than obviously talking about our differences than obviously having a war, of course.
Antifa had this old-fashioned like nostalgia for violence, and I don't think that we care for that shit.
No, especially Australia, we don't tolerate that shit.
Australia's very anti-extremism.
We could, and I guess it comes down to the multiculturalism in our country. We've got a lot of immigration from war-torn countries, so our generation here in particular are more willing to talk and more willing to have a discussion and gather the facts to have that discussion. Unfortunately, you have the school environments such as the Safe School program and that kind of thing that and devolve actual learning to a certain
university.
University is a perfect breeding ground. That used to be the pinnacle of freedom of speech, but now it's fucking go and you've got to represent every life matters and all this crap, and instead of actually teaching facts about how the world is,
what you need to know pretty much in the real world.
Exactly.
It's sort of like obvious crap, like all life matters. And the Black Lives Matter was a slogan for a group, and then they've turned it into like a statement, Black Lives Matter, when it was just meant to be the name of a group, but now it's become like a worldwide thing.
It's
Of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course, all lives matter. It was meant to just make a point of that police often, because I think they did get away with it. The 80s was like, crack, and then the white people in the 90s were all on heroin, dying of overdoses on heroin.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Black Lives Matter, but yeah, like with the police brutality, Joe Biden legislated that, the police brutality.
Right.
Crime Bill 1994. Yeah.
So
what's his name? The other Democrat, but Mr. Clinton, Bill.
He was the president then.
Yeah.
92,
he won the election and got sworn in January 93 after winning November 92.
Yeah, okay. And he had 2 terms.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, I like thinking about what I was doing then, completely non-intellectual, but still immersed in culture. And then now, thinking more intellectually, but still having I don't have any fixed, well, not very fixed. I feel a bit fixed sometimes about the women and men stuff because, I don't know, I guess, experience.
Yeah, and women and men, when it comes to that kind of thing, men have issues that women don't fully understand, and women vice versa, correct. And I think a lot of that is just, people wanting more than what they have. It's almost an instinct, it's that survival instinct. I've got to make the most of a situation, whether it's good or bad, as long as I come off on top.
Having control. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, correct. Control factor. Look at the case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That was for years. He lost his job at Disney with one of the biggest franchises in the world.
That was just last year, man.
Yeah. Well, earlier than that. No, I knew about that 2 years ago, man.
No, I remember seeing it on TV last year, the fallout of it pretty much.
Yeah, well, but anyway, now it's turned the other way, where it's the other way, and that kind of shows you that it doesn't matter if it's male or female, people, if they have advantage, they will take it, and they will make the most of it. And unfortunately...
I guess what we see is that because we're physically weaker, you see the predatory men will look for ones they can control. I suppose women will do that as well. But
and it's exactly right. I mean, it is predatory men,
And the do we know predatory women?
I do. I actually do.
They probably. They probably don't hang around. That's probably,
I know her personally, and I won't divulge who she is, but she's a person I know, and her boyfriend was physically bashed by her, which is hard to believe, but she goes for the weaker guys, the guys that she can manipulate, and that is one thing girls are a lot better. Using words, using emotion to inflict damage, where guys, it's as you pointed out before, it's the physical. And I guess that's where it's, the difference in thoughts and the way kind of thing. She's moved on now, and she's got herself another partner. But what I hear is,
best of luck to him.
Just she's doing the same thing to him. So, but all the best to her. If that's the way she wants to live, and I'm not one to step in her way and
no, she should be stopped.
Yeah, but I'm saying that.
Yeah, well, how would you stop?
Well, I mean, I'm feeling for the guy that's obviously, that's having his, fucked up,
But I'm saying that
you can out them, I suppose, like how people try and out men on Tinder. I mean, because you're in physical danger if you meet up with a guy and he's can overpower you and you're alone. So like, they'll say this, this is a man who's, and it's funny how like, well, women will talk about it like it's all men. And now they're saying that if you say not all men, that's like I don't know, a dog whistle or some bullshit. But
no, that's fact. That's correct. That's a very
predator,
safe statement.
Each predator probably, takes out how many? I don't know, 100. I mean, I don't know if this is
And I mean, this bullshit position, teach men not to rape. Well, it's just like you say, the predators, right? And they're criminals, that they are doing it because they don't think that you'll be able to do anything about it.
Well, then they take on apprentices and groups, and they'll lead a group, and there'll be, in a community, some suburban community, you'll have the leader, and then he's got, a group of guys all taking vulnerable girls. I mean, we've seen it. Everyone sort of knows of a story where, you all used to go out to parties and drink and nightclubs or whatnot, and there'd be a couple of girls that it happens to. They'd never been drunk before, and a group of guys will. Well, the one girl that it happened to in our group, in our school, she comes out and says, well, I willingly did that. I loved it. But she was a very naive and, a good girl at the school, kind of ignored, or, I mean, it feels horrible to say it, but after we had our 20-year reunion, and we're all heavy drinkers, so we'd sort of bring out all the inappropriate stories, and then she just admitted, yeah, I gave a blowjob to like 12 guys in the bushes at that party, everyone knows, and I loved it. Like that's me. And I was like, what the fuck? I remember that night we grabbed our 2 male friends. We're like, tell us where she is. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But somehow.
An easy lie.
Yeah. And those situations do come up, and unfortunately, you're going to have people that are like that, all right,
It's kind of like, you've got your predator, but then it kind of infects other men. I don't know if women who are predators. I mean, they're doing it now, I guess, in the whole of feminism in a way. It's funny how what's her name, Clementine Ford, I'll completely be against her. And then I think it was yesterday, she just started talking about how I just completely agreed with what she said. I was like, wow, and she has started to listen to the people that fight her, even though she's a bitch, like she's so angry. I'm like, wow, she is engaging with, because it comes up over and over. Like there's enough people, men and women, that are saying the same arguments, not all, you say not all men. We're not being arseholes. We can sense that you are saying all men. So we're saying not all men, and then we're trying to, that's a discussion starter. And then she seems to be listening in her own way, you know what I mean? Like it's bringing up.
I think if there was anything good that came out of Married at First Sight, it was the fact that she got a bit red-pilled. If you remember with Bronson and Innes, how she was emotionally abusing him the whole week. And then Bronson said, at the end of that week, when they were gathered round, he'd said that sometimes she can be a bit of a bitch.
Yeah.
So and she realized that, wait, no, he actually kind of has a point.
Yeah.
Did you watch it, or because I know that Friendly Geordies and Clem Ford both, commentate on it.
I watched Isaac Butterfield's video on it, and I watched a bit of it with Mum because she was watching it, so that she could understand the background story of the Mamma Mia send-ups of it?
Oh,
Yeah.
the Mamma Mia. Oh, Mamma Mia, the journalism group, the website.
Well, obviously she knows more about it than me, and she's not obviously with me right now to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that's interesting because it's not, like Clem Ford was getting criticised because she analyses it, and then you've got Friendly Geordies who makes fun of it, which is funny. I love watching how, because he's just like, it's so tragic, just
You mean so tragically awful?
You love it because they're Aussies, but you're so kind of embarrassed that there's these Aussies like that will do that, and just to get on TV or whatnot. But then you get to see, this in depth of how men and women communicate so terribly, and that they are the mainstream. Like they're all the suburbanite. That is. I don't know if that makes up most of us. We're all kind of.
Have you guys heard? I saw earlier on Facebook on my news feed that State Labor are bringing in this new program next month that's mandatory consent classes.
Yeah. Again, it's.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. So
well, it's very similar to what we were talking about. I mean, the least that I think they could have done was just, add it to the respectful relationships programs. But, obviously it's not a, very efficient, thinking, state government. But, they've, just created this whole new program of obviously mandatory consent and, obviously I've seen, of course, that being made fun of before, rightly so, because it's fair enough, obviously, that you should have to have the woman's permission to have sex with her, of course. But after, you've got that, it should be that obviously if she doesn't, want this particular sexual act done to her or kind of thing, or she doesn't obviously wish for it to continue, then obviously she needs to say no, because otherwise I think it's, just ridiculous to have to be asking, literally every sex act, is it okay to do this?
Yeah, but
then I kind of imagine, because this is the way I kind of see, how we were talking about the patriarchy on that post. Whenever I hear Jordan Peterson say there's no patriarchy, I kind of go, yeah, but guys in general dominate, you're soft. Like when I was young, they ask you out, they initiate, and unless you're
Courtship.
allowed a girl, what was that? Bullshit. Well,
Courtship.
Oh, courtship. Sorry, bullshit. Well, Perry, I don't want to, speak Perry's words, but he was quite surprised when I said that girls are self-conscious. He's like, oh, what? Girls he knew were confident. Maybe it was when he was brought up. I don't know, late 70s. I don't know. But it seemed in general, I mean, not all guys are initiators, and maybe only the initiators are the ones that got girlfriends for a while, unless it was a mutual thing, or unless the girls asked out the guys, because not all guys are confident and not all girls are submissive. Isn't it like a 60-40 split?
Yeah, I would say, about
So,
55 45 I'd go, that's how I kind of see it. Especially these days, girls are very, very much more open with that kind of thing.
So your generation, would you say?
It starts probably, as my generation, and unfortunately with programs such as Jersey Shore and that kind of thing.
Absolute degeneracy.
Very much, mate, and that's taught a lot
Jersey
of
Shore.
MTV. I found that a lot of people, my generation, would watch that, back in your day, MTV, it was about music. It turned to about reality TV, and it's
Yeah, I
still
remember I remember the first, what was it called? Oh, the first house in MTV that was a reality show. Because you would have been teenagers at the beginning of 2000 or so.
yeah,
I
around
was
15 years
12.
ago.
Yeah,
I
Then
was
we had
10.
9/11, and then the world was just kind of.
I was 10 on the
Yeah.
first day of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, it just seems like now we're suddenly really upset about everything. But for the last 20 years, we've just been in commercial bliss and TV, and everyone's free. And
that
I'm just
and
like, what the hell? What the fuck's been happening for 20 years? When the last 2 years, now we've got everything's shit, and we need social justice for everything. All of a sudden, like we haven't had all this.
again, it's a
Has to
push.
be injected into everything.
It's a
bullshit.
push narrative.
Not so much pushed, but shoved.
I think it's a great reset.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly
so what's that,
right. Agenda 21, the fourth industrial revolution, if you want to call it.
And when did it start?
Yeah.
Did it start like a long time ago, and then they
so it's taken a very long time for them to do it because, again, your generation, the generation before, are not stupid. Went through war, went through all the bullshit that governments tried to pull, with prohibition, all that kind of stuff.
Prohibition was, when my grandma was born.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We deeply distrusted commercialism.
Yeah, 100%.
Then we had like a brief period of I just watched the history of like punk and how it turned into like Green Day punk. It was so interesting because punk of the 70s was aggressive, and again, I could say like dominated by the boys club in a way, because I don't know, whatever, young teenage boys, and then suddenly there was a shift, like the nerdy kids and the girls wanted nicer music, not so aggressive and punk, because the world wasn't falling to capitalism or whatever.
Yeah, there was, and
they got commercialized anyway. But
yeah,
and then the 90s was like lovely, like Kurt Cobain was the biggest feminist type. He rejected Guns N' Roses' invite to tour with them because he said, the way you treat women, like we just.
This is feminism, like what's it called? Pre the getting offended over, names or words that have boy in them. Yeah, this is just before that.
See,
is that the feminist he was? Was he pre that at all?
So,
no, just how the late 80s moving into the early 90s was kind of aggressive and.
So I think the mid 90s was
change.
Like capitalism. No, it's not capitalism. Celebrating commercialism. Like capitalism's always there.
So I think the mid 90s was when they started getting offended over, names with,
then the mid 90s. The mid 90s, I would say, is exactly like now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Except there's a lot, there's a lot of extra shit
going
going on.
Critical mass.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and just seeing how all the stuff I had to read in uni, from 10 years ago, comes from the mid 90s.
Yeah, that sounds right.
There's a lot of production going on, but then we're all ignorant to it. The difference now is that the conservatives, or it's not even, I wouldn't even say the conservatives, people they don't want that narrative anymore. So they're calling themselves conservatives, or, you're using the word libertarian, which makes more sense, and just saying conservatives. Maybe it's a different kind of conservative, but conservatives in our day were the Christians.
Well, obviously, just because you're a conservative or a socialist, doesn't obviously mean that you are necessarily, pro-freedom, or that, obviously you respect, people's personal space kind of thing, that you pretty much shouldn't be, like I'd said, messing up their shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't know, they just, whoever wants socialism don't seem to have anything to do with what the working class are even going through.
We'll see again. These are these socialists, the Antifas, that kind of thing. They focus on these problems because they haven't had any real struggles. You'll find there are a lot of them are fresh out of uni, so brainwashed effectively in a certain way of thinking, because unfortunately every educational system from the US and here, especially with universities, has been dumbed down to this state where the social problems are the biggest issues instead of actual real issues such as economic takeover, war, that kind of stuff.
Well, economics, yeah. We should learn economics, history, and that
history, 100%.
All that shit that we were reading in the mid-90s, well, I didn't read them, I'm reading them now, comes from the mid-90s. That replaces all of the knowledge that was there before, probably from the, philosophy department, literature.
100%. And a greatest example of that is medical science, that kind of stuff. The stuff.
Oh yeah, psychology.
Psychology. Back in the day, the every average person that had some form of mental degradation, or is that the right word? I forget.
You sounded like an intellectual just for a brief second until you doubted yourself.
Yeah, I try not to be, but very, anyone with any mental impairment would be chucked straight into a mental hospital and, experimented on and that kind of thing. And that was all, going back as to the 60s, so in the last 40 years as a
the Alcatraz era.
Yeah, well, yeah, you could say that.
Well, Foucault, I know Foucault wrote about this stuff. Jordan Peterson says, Foucault is useless. It's like he's written about history, especially of mental asylums and prisons. But then he has this whole theory about power, that we all, well, it seems like is being rejected, that every interaction is about power and you have to root it out and, create social justice.
The truth to power. Everyone's talking, it's always truth to power. They're trying to knock everything out. Power struggle for everybody.
Well, that's it.
When I was at uni in the 90s, they tore through the classical arts departments. They tore through philosophy. They tore through history. They tore through psychology. They tore through everything. They they ripped the philosophy department in half at Monash and at Melbourne, and put more commerce and more nursing. And so the classical department, the history department got absolutely assassinated at Monash and Melbourne, La Trobe. People having to go overseas, they lost tenure, like the whole place was just getting shredded by the corporates.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's happening everywhere. The UK, apparently that didn't happen. Apparently it was happening in America as well. The corporates are going through it, but they didn't do it to the UK.
So now
they're not
we don't need to do that
from the stuff they're coming out with today. They're all communists at 20.
Well, maybe, now they didn't have to shut down anything. Well, and now they're talking about ScoMo funding nursing and business. Well, what's he funding? Business? No, sorry.
The guy who very much took away the funding. So yeah, I find it's a bit of a circle jerk, and sorry for that term, but it's a bit of a circle jerk that politicians play. You only have to look at how much they're paying it, and they were talking about this Aboriginal reconciliation tax. 6% they want to tax everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And I commented on that, and I'm like, why don't they take the 6% out of their paychecks and
pay it themselves?
Pay it themselves. Like, seriously. they can afford it. And, you know, every single politician that's in Parliament, no poor person there. They have a lot of money and they have a lot of contacts. You know, you only have to look at Dan Andrews. He's worth 90 million.
And hasn't even been in the Parliament 20 years yet.
Yeah, 90 million. He didn't make that just from being a politician. He made that from having side deals, whatever, businesses.
Highest salary he's ever had, annual salary. Is his current one, 440,000.
And the simple fact is every politician that represents the current public are all like that. And it comes down to money is power. If you have money, you can do what the fuck you want. You only have to look at
purchasing power.
Yeah, you know, you only have to
must jump on the fact, you know, that we were told, you know, you got to shut up and just pay the rent because we're here illegally.
Beds are burning.
Yeah, I know. Well, they said it back then, didn't they? So they're using the same
it's a
words,
scam.
like they think they made it up. You know, just pay the rent.
And that's it.
So that's what they think we all should do.
Yeah. And again, it goes into those people with power will generally try and retain it. And especially if you give, say, a government the extended powers like they will have saved and have got so far, you know, it'll only lead to disaster after a certain amount of period. Because again, from the point of view of, say, a dictator, they're never wrong. They're never on the bad side. They're always
he's never wrong.
Exactly. You know,
and I think the longer you're a dictator for, then obviously, you know, like I said, even being like sympathetic towards Pinochet, you know, I think obviously towards, you know, the end of the 17 years, I think it was right, obviously, you know, that he packed it up, you know, because I think the longer you're a dictator for, you know, the more paranoid you become.
Yeah.
I
just wonder, you know, we're calling Dan a dictator, but
well, I wouldn't say that he is technically a dictator.
It's just funny,
but he certainly isn't far off it.
Because he gets so, the more upset he gets by that, and the more, you know, his followers get upset, then the more, you know, people are just going to keep saying it.
Well, they should get upset. They should be upset. You know, they deserve to.
Yeah.
Be.
All right. We'll face it.
I have faith in humanity, though. Like we don't want to be controlled. I don't think, and it's like the masses of working class, and we're not just working class. We're all people that can watch a YouTube video and look, and all of the. Not just Jordan Peterson, the new, what's it called? The new fight is about a group called Clubhouse. Have you heard of them? They had a 5-hour video, and it's about lots of people joining lots of rooms. So you're walking down a corridor virtually, and then there's rooms that you join, and they're talking about how the leftist narratives have taken over. And this one specific one is called "Has wokeism gone mad or something?" Yep. Do you want to get some bread? And in the first 2 hours, or you got to. I'm just skipping through. It's like a 5-hour thing. So after about 2 hours, someone comes into the room and she's a black woman, and she says, "You don't have any diverse moderators," because there's all moderators. Trying to moderate this massive conversation between lots of people. So she comes in and he tells her, "Well, you can be a moderator." So he gets her as a moderator, and then she kicks him off. She kicks him out. And then she gets other black people kind of take over, like a real coup in this video. So like, I see a lot of positive stuff, but then this really crazy stuff, because the trigonometric is like, all those big YouTubers are talking about this, and they're getting quite like, "Oh, this is frightening." And I'm just thinking, oh, they're just kind of, you know, that's why it's called kids just playing games. And we are all free people, And does it? I don't know. Well, could we turn our country into a dictatorship? I suppose.
I mean, like, you know, Marky said, you know, obviously these Antifa people, you know, never experienced, you know, any genuine oppression or hardship, you know, and yet they go on and on and on about how oppressed they are. And obviously, you know, when they have power, they oppress us, you know, libertarian right and left. and you know, why the hell should we have to tolerate it, you know, anymore?
Well,
even tolerate it in the first place.
See, Troy, this is where I'm very centralist in my opinion. I grew up, as I said previously, in a Labor household. So and I don't now no longer follow Labor and don't really agree with what they've turned into. And you know, the days of people being able to express themselves and have a difference in opinion is long gone, you know? And you can't, the shit, it starts with a small momentum. And, you know, it kicked off particularly with Me Too. That's when it kind of really kicked off. And yeah, they end up. Say again?
3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, that's interesting. You see, is the Me Too kicking it off.
Oh well, that's the obviously, you know, the dangerous you know, guilty cause accused position.
And then as time has evolved, you know, it's gone into Black Lives Matter. Now
that was around before Me Too, though.
Yeah, but that spurred them to start kicking up a storm.
That was kind of Antifa, I'd say. No, not many people.
Oh, right, because you mean because of, they've really upped their pillaging since Me Too.
Exactly. Me Too allowed these radical groups, if you would want them to call them that. I wouldn't call them that because they're just groups, you know. That they call it kind of kick-started this whole look at my situation. I haven't got any real issues, so I'll go and create this issue. And I think that's a flaw in humans itself, like human nature. We are always wanting to strive for the better, you know. So I feel like
it's a flaw. It could also be what we have to do to progress.
Correct, and it becomes a bit of a conundrum, you know. It's you know, and that's where I kind of see the balanced opinion of, you know, I agree with both sides, you know, in certain aspects, but disagree in others, you know.
Yeah. When like something like Me Too, and you use the word radical, I would say that became mainstream because it started well enough. We all would.
100%. And
talking about how they were, and now it's become this consent idea. So is that what you're linking at, the Me Too stuff now with this consent training? It's going to be mainstream. It's going to be prescription. I don't know if you've watched Donnie Darko.
Control. Yeah, exactly. It's a controlling factor.
You know, just come up with a program, and it's like, this is how we're going to teach them. I wonder what the alternative even is, but there are definitely alternatives. There's sex education at a age appropriate, like you know, like I mean, I've heard of.
Oh yeah, like I had at Point Cook in grade 6.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about, yeah? Sex education?
Well,
sex education, but also self-esteem, teaching you boundaries. I think that they should teach girls and boys just the reality of human beings that and
unfortunately,
and they're full of shit if you if someone's being nice to you, it's not necessarily because they're a nice person. I wish I fucking knew that. Like, just someone being nice to you doesn't mean they're a nice person. That's like,
Yeah.
Sometimes it's strategical.
Yeah, and this is where the concept of primary school and high school. Like, I worked at a school for a short term, so I got to understand this from a little bit of an adult point of view. I going up through school and that kind of thing, didn't really see the other side of it, and a lot of it. And I asked the teacher, I said, "What's so important about kids going out for recess and all that stuff?" And I just generalized questions,
Well, Marky, that's how we became buddies.
Yeah. So they explained it. Prep to 6 is to develop your basic social skills. It's not so much about learning because the brain is still maturing at that time. As you get older, your mind is able to comprehend bigger concepts, that kind of thing. So high school is when they pick up the education with your maths, literary, and that kind of stuff, and that's why there's such an emphasis on year 12 and year 11. That's the go-to years because your brain's at the for girls particular, that's maturity. They get, once they hit 21, they're fully mature.
But primary school is your formative years and your what's it called? Critical thinking skills slowly develop there.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as time has developed, and as you pointed out, the whole sociology departments and universities, that kind of thing got cut in the 90s. It goes back. That's how far it kind of goes back to,
I thought, isn't sociology responsible for this bullshit?
Well,
this
not sociology. Critical thinking skills and that, have gone out the window because,
they used to just teach you, like what I'm hearing you saying about the recess and stuff. That's what I was actually thinking about a little bit, like these programs, they think, well, this is going to fix us, but actually we're already learning. We already know how to set up school, even though it's apparently made like a, like a factory line, but
100%.
it's still like, recess is there to develop your social skills. Although I was a particularly shy kid, although no, I've learned a lot. I didn't learn anything from being around a mother who was, I love what she taught me now when I look back. Like, I have freedom from all this crap of society because she was so developed in her social skills.
Yeah.
She rejects just naturally. She's the woman that will corner you in the train, sit in your personal space, ask you who you are, what's your football team, she'll go on and on.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of knows that kind of character. She's not retarded or, what's the proper word?
She's
just... what's it called? Socially stunted?
Yeah, I tried to take her to a clinic for autism because I've always thought I'm on the spectrum. And then, you see people, we all self-diagnose that we're on the spectrum, and it was good taking Mum there. They said she doesn't seem to be the typical spectrum, but she seems to have a kind of a low IQ type of thing where she's stuck in a young mind. She's an old woman with this.
Yeah, well, it sounds very much like, Mum driving me around to, obviously find out, why pretty much I was the way I was.
Yeah. So did you get diagnosed with anything?
Asperger's.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering about. So you've had a proper diagnosis. And
yeah, because it was kindergarten.
Understand yourself?
It was like
about,
I think it was like 1995 or something.
Yeah.
Because that was my second year of kinder.
Well, I really feel like, because I was so desperately shy in primary school, I want to know I don't want to just be told, which is what people say, oh, everyone's shy. But I'm like, no, this was the thing that was extreme for me. I feel like I've got all these other mild mental illnesses, too mild to, anxiety, social anxiety. But that comes from this shyness, which is related to the intensity when you're around people. And that's what seems to relate to Asperger's, is that you're so overwhelmed with an intense, stimulation, isn't it? Too much.
Yeah, I never handle pressure well.
No.
Pressure. Well, I definitely have to link, how I was, and now that this consent stuff, there's women talking about when we were young in the 80s, which isn't now, the 80s and possibly not.
Scary, isn't it, to think that, obviously that's more than 30 years ago.
Oh, actually, I'm saying it isn't happening now, and that's bullshit, because apparently because of pornography, like, extreme pornography, boys just assume that's how you have sex, and girls will kind of, agree that that's how he wants to do it, and that's how, even how she probably thinks she wants to do it, because we don't know, you're young. I mean, sex is a whole thing.
It's a big ball game, isn't it, Maureen?
Well, obviously, it's how we were created.
Yeah, and I guess it comes down to
we're just saying, children, here you go. Here's this fucking concept that.
Exactly, and that goes back to, kids, can't handle these concepts because they just don't understand the complexity of what is involved and what can happen, Yeah,
but that's the whole point of obviously making them the target audience.
Well,
because they won't be able to question what they're being told.
Yeah.
And what's happening to us because our parents weren't there, and for some reason, maybe the last 20 years, parents were home, and now suddenly they're not home again. They're just missing.
I think it's a lot.
Or it's online, maybe, like kids.
Yeah. In
the next room while the.
Yeah, it's you only have to look at girls' clothing these days, and that kind of thing. It's everywhere, and
just the Grammys that happened just a few days ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I work around St Kilda and that, and I see it all the time. Girls wearing. Yeah, sometimes I look and go, "Holy fuck! Are they actually wearing clothes?" Because they're like, and it's not necessarily the girls' fault, because these designers are the ones that design the clothes and that kind of thing.
So they're like 18 to 25 or something.
Yeah, and a lot of influence online. Internet is such a wonderful thing at times, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I don't, have a problem, obviously, as someone that, of course, has masturbated on numerous occasions. I don't have a problem, obviously, with porn being online. But my issue is what I just said, that there's no way that obviously porn should be so easily accessible that you turn on the TV and there it is, you're seeing two women scissoring.
Correct. And
look, Camille Paglia, she talks a lot with Jordan Peterson. I've just read something about porn. I mean, she says a lot of controversial stuff, but she says it's necessary. And she's,
I'm gonna have to wrap up, guys, because I got work early tomorrow.
Sorry about that, Marky, mate. But anyway,
right.
Thanks for coming on and talking to us, man. I appreciate that.
We'll have to play around with more of the time so I can spend a little bit more time on. Because, I start work at 5, so
wow.
For me, it's getting to my bedtime. So
I hope, obviously, you sleep well, man.
Yeah,
it's not easy waking up early.
Yeah, look,
Mum does it.
Look, I'm free most weekends. Next weekend I'm not free, so I'm
earlier, like 6.
Yeah, even if we go, say, well, Yeah, we can go like
2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours is a good reasonable time. That's enough
Yeah.
for everyone to have a chance to talk and
Mm.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, we're obviously still experimenting on the way to do this and that kind of thing. Yeah, but it's been lovely conversation, but unfortunately I have to wrap it up for myself.
There's so much to say, I know. So that's what
Yeah, and
Yeah, mate. I'm sorry to obviously hear that you have to go.
yeah, no, and Troy, you know, you can contest to this, but how many hours have we spoken on the phone about these very issues, you know?
Oh, well, they're absolutely fascinating, aren't they? Even
Yeah.
though at the same time they are such a massive concern to us.
Well, 100%. And again, that's where I like to switch off at times. And I think everyone needs to do that because for your own sanity
Yeah.
and everyone else's sanity in your household, too much of that stuff, it just, mental health and that kind of thing, it just brings it down. So, yeah.
Oh, well, aren't my cousins, what's it called? You know, very blissfully ignorant.
Yeah. But hey, you know, it's again from their point of view, you're ignorant, you know.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of you take each day and each person with, you know, as they are, and no point of view should be shut down at all. That's where I stand, and that's what I like about our group.
I would agree with the exception of the top left-hand corner.
Yeah, but even them, they have a right to be heard by, man. Like,
but I mean, like they are like the only ideology saying that everyone has to be shut down.
Yeah, but again, that's the brilliance of freedom of speech.
There's there'll be something in it that why they do that, and
well, because they want communism, because they believe that they're bringing in the utopia.
Yeah, and another, watch that trigonometry interview. They were talking about one of them is Russian, and they were directly saying that socialism just hasn't been tried properly. And Jordan Peterson, he seems to articulate really well these days. Like he just said, it'll never be what we want it to be, because you'll have your standard of how you want everyone to be, and then the next generation will come in, the next group, and then they will shut you down because you're not perfect. You know, you didn't get it right, and then
it's an endless cycle, Maureen.
Yeah.
That's the simple fact of it.
So sorry to have kept you longer, man.
No, that's all right.
But he did say it's necessary. He did say the left, and I just feel like.
Oh, I do give them credit for their creativity.
They're just mean, and they're just. It's not mean. It's rude. They're just rude.
Oh yeah. Sorry, those leftists are, yes.
Arrogant.
Sorry, I thought we were going more into the legitimate left.
Well, no, not necessary.
That's probably what I am. Legitimate.
Yeah, libertarian left, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking more. You're talking more particular. The radical left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
the outrageous.
We would call them radical left, but again, they have as much as we hate it, they have a right to speak as much as we do.
But look what they do, bruh. When you don't oppress them, look at what they do.
Yeah, but on saying that, each to their own. You can't. You
but
can't.
We don't deserve it, man. You don't deserve, obviously, to be, obviously treated, be oppressed.
Again, if you're gonna have a true understanding of everything, man, you've got to see it from both sides. You can't just see it from one side.
I do understand what you're saying, because, like, my older mate, he is like pretty much, basically exactly in the center. He's just as opposed, obviously, to Pinochet as he is to Mao and Stalin. Which I guess is pretty much obviously what where you're saying you are too, of course.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
and then that's it. And again, no one should be shut down. As much as it's annoying, you gotta let people have their freedom to speak up.
Oh, I'm in favor of pretty much almost everyone being able to do that.
And I think they're getting it now that like when I'm listening to Clem Ford, she could just ignore her haters, or she could just make fun of them. She's actually listening in her own way to what they're saying, because then she's responding. It's like, has she been doing this the whole time? No, she's like,
by the sounds of it, and I haven't really listened to her in a long time, and she was
you
real.
want to write her off and not ever listen. And I've just been challenging myself, because I just think I shouldn't be so arrogant and think I know everything. So I will listen to someone like her, expecting it to be bullshit. But then I'm like, wow, I just agree. And she's saying that girls have to change their thinking. I don't know if she realizes this, but she is saying, and she said girls and women have to start getting together and hanging out, because society kind of wants us all separate, which was how it was. Women just lived in their own house with their kids. They might meet up for coffee or whatnot, but most women are just separate, and men were working in the world. They would hang out together in their workplace and business, and there's some kind of disconnect now. You've got ball busting women in business, and then whoever's in power, whoever's the manager is just shitting on everyone that's just underneath them.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, Clementine Ford. I mean, I haven't obviously actively, searched to listen to her, but I haven't heard anything from her since obviously she was complaining about having a baby boy.
Oh, yeah, I think that was a while ago.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about her.
That was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be less about her own experience, although it definitely comes in, and she's full of anger and hatred. But I guess, as women, as a woman, I kind of listen and agree to some extent, but it is about us choosing for ourselves not to take on these people, instead of just saying all men have to change. And I mean, it's shifting anyway. That's what I think she can see. We're shifting. You can't just force change. It'll just shift where we want it as a collective society.
And again, that's right. And people forget, and this is where the left, the radical left forget, and the radical right forget. People have freedom of choice. They live the lives they want to live. You don't ask a gangster to go work in a primary school. That's the life they choose. It becomes again.
Or they get caught up in it.
And they get caught up with it, and situations like that, are unfortunate, but that is what the person, the individual chooses,
But unfortunately, though, mate, like as idealistic as it is, right? And like obviously, very principled. Unfortunately, mate, obviously they don't have any, based principles. If it wasn't for double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. And like I'd said, if you don't, make some of what, if you don't make that one thing that they say true, making them oppressed, then they will oppress you, because look at the way they conduct themselves. Obviously, Antifa crashed the March for Men event. For example, they tried to shut down Jordan Peterson's event.
Yeah.
And he's just a boring psychologist.
Well,
that's helping obviously young men out.
Yeah, and again, you've got to take them with a grain of salt. They're just you could almost say they're nutters,
Yeah.
It's again,
Well, the leaders were, and then the rest were a bit naive, because you follow your leader.
It's a cult mentality. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They won't even read or watch Jordan Peterson. They'll read the Guardian article about him, or all the articles that are all fully just lying about him.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything so much untruths, because he's not speaking that language of sociology, speaking this weird language from psychology. You'd think that psychology was part of our culture, but it seems like we haven't spoken this language. Like when he said, I got introduced to him, and the first thing I heard him say was, women are more agreeable, you know, men are more conscientious. And I just went, what the fuck? Who is this prick? You know, hate him. That was my instant.
Language
that I'd never heard. Like, women are more agreeable. What, you know, how dare you? But then he's using statistics, and I don't think he used to articulate himself well, because he's gone through all this hell now, and he seems to understand society more from experience, because he was so fucked over. And now he will say it better, but he'll say that statement, women are more agreeable or whatnot, instead of saying, well, 60%, there's a 60-40 split. It's not a huge difference. And he also says women and men are basically the same, but their differences are significant. Like, there's not many differences, but the differences are big enough to talk about.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, I'd say that pretty much, you know, like, men and women aren't, like, even though they should obviously be treated equally, but I wouldn't really say that they are equal. I don't think that one is superior, you know, to, you know, or than the other, because I think men and women have their different strengths and weaknesses, and you know, their different advantages and disadvantages.
Exactly. And as a couple in a relationship or whatever, you make up each other's strengths and weaknesses as a team.
We're generalizing though too, aren't we? Like,
that is true.
Men that are quite soft and feminine-like, but like, you know, I can say my partner is quite feminine, but when you talk to him, he sounds like a bloke that, you know, he's got that, because he's an extrovert, but he's, you know, the softest emotional kind of person. Doesn't like raised voices, but you know, I'm from a WOG household. I can say WOG because I'm half WOG.
Hey, there's no racism here.
We all argue and yell, and even my Irish father his favourite thing was to argue, but not, you know, argue about politics, not about personal stuff. He hated fighting. He just loved to have these discussions, heated, where he's thumping the table, and because it's exciting to talk about.
And again, these conversations give you a perspective into the way people think. You know, for example,
you can learn.
You can learn, and that's what I meant before with our conversations in this group chat. We all have different points of view. For example, Troy is a very
like a center right fascist.
Yeah, and where you're pretty much on the opposite, you know, and it's such an interesting concept that you don't really see this kind of conversation happening, because again, either side wants to shut it down because they just want their point of views heard.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about control, you know. Yeah. If you don't let anything control you, then you have the greatest resource in, you know, and that is freedom, you know.
I mean, you know,
freedom to choose.
I have, you know, tremendous respect for you and my older mate, obviously, you know, for being a centrist, and exactly, you know, for what you just said, of course, you know, like it's great because obviously, you know, you and him, you know, really good at obviously, you know, opening up my mind, you know, if you get what I'm saying, you know, they're telling me something, you know, that obviously I just haven't thought of.
Yeah, and again, this is the whole point of these kind of groups.
Open discourse. Yeah.
It's about opening people's mind to a new perspective, view, whatever you want to call it, and showing that there's more to the world than what is shown on the TV and showing, you know, on the internet, you know. You only have to look at the way society is now. You know, you don't have a survivalist society, you have a consumerist society.
Yeah,
where-
I just don't want, you know, you and my older mate, obviously, you know, to just be continuously, you know, have your generosity taken advantage of.
But it's not generosity, mate. It's equivalent exchange. You're right.
Mm.
From the point of view, if I give you something,
Yeah.
I don't expect you to give something back,
Mm.
but in turn, you will give something me back. You know.
Mm.
You just expect, don't you, like to be listened to and not like I like reading the comments section, and now when I see the words, when I see that disrespectful, you know, like educate yourself. What are you fucking, you know?
Yeah.
Like any kind of, I'm forcing myself just not to want to control it because I know, because that's how people, maybe these people have never engaged in well, it's not a debate. I guess it's like a debate. They're just being idiots, but
they've never had someone disagree with them.
But that, I mean, to me, that's the wrong way to go about it. And this group is just like, we are different. At the start, I was like, oh, there's not really any real conflict. We're not lefties and righties, but we are. Like you were just saying, both of you are different. Me and Joe here talk about lots of different things, but we just don't. We respect. I mean, I do have beliefs and opinions, but they change. They change so much. I question whether I have.
I just hate good people being wronged or getting wronged.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that pisses me off. And I see them doing this constantly and, you know, having no graciousness, which is why I get so pissed off with them and so angry with them, you know, and why I think that, well, you know, they are so reprehensible, you know, that I just wish that, you know, Pinochet-like character would come along and wipe them out.
Yeah, that's what I know. I see that in your comments, but you're like me, where it seems simple, just be respectful and not rude. But under that, their ego telling them that they're right. So that it's not just that they're rude people; they're actually looking at you and going, "I have the right answer." And to me, that's an injustice because it's obviously not true.
Exactly. You know, facts and logic and
Yeah, but again,
Jordan Peterson talking about his facts about people, he kind of knows that he's not absolutely right, even though he sometimes says it's wrong. That's wrong, and it's seriously wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm going, yeah, but what if it's not wrong? You know, he would be the first to admit.
Well, like I was saying, right? I mean, you know, they don't care, right? That you're saying that facts don't care about your feelings because, you know, their feelings won't accept your facts because, like I'd said, you know, obviously, you know, they are only interested in equal outcome, you know, in their utopia.
Correct.
Yeah, I wonder if there's another statement now that someone will come up with that, you know, your feelings don't care about your facts. The other, your opposition's feelings are just as valid as yours. Like
well, there's a reason why they think, obviously, you know, what they think as well as you, of course.
Like you will feel that something's a certain way. You just have to learn how to articulate it and find backup, because you kind of know. I don't know. I kind of know things. Like I can say I know about motherhood, having 3. Well, I know about motherhood of daughters only.
I was about to say, do you have 2 daughters, don't you?
3.
3.
Like, you know,
because I met 2 of them.
I want to ask people about raising boys because it's not impossible that I'll do it. I'll probably have grandkids one day, and the grandparents usually, you know, take on. So I'm looking forward to that anyway. And but yeah, you know, it's your experience with something. You know, I've had 23 years of being a parent, that there is a feeling in it. And then other parents, I've never worked, I've stayed home. I think that's what I wanted to do. My parents weren't home. I got kind of fucked up by being left alone with not predatory boyfriends, but having no boundaries and kind of being, a lot of the stories I'm hearing about consent and stuff, I really, what's the word? I relate to, and this latest stuff from Clementine Ford, I relate to it because my partner, who I love, I've had to push him out because he's instead of getting better, he's wanting to just be here and have us all pretend nothing's wrong,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, kind of avoiding the issue kind of thing, the
Yeah.
elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever issue is there, a lot of people, I don't know if it's mostly boys, I blame kind of his mother. I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but it's not her fault, but I think that he was enabled by a woman that needed his affection because her husband was always gone. So he got enabled, and then now he wants me to enable him, and I'm like, no, I'd rather you leave and get better and then return.
Yeah.
But that might not happen. So that's the risk. But I don't know what we were talking about before, but yeah,
So, sorry, we've kept you 20 minutes, mate.
It's all right. This is what happens. I enjoyed the conversation a bit too much.
Yeah.
Let you go.
No, it's all right. I'll just say one more thing. Again, on that, it's the old concept that guys have to hide their emotion.
Bottle it up, yeah.
Bottle it up, hide it. You're there to support your family. That is your job, Make sure your family is protected, and it goes back as far as
a hunter-gatherer
mentality.
It is a reality, a biological reality, because they're not having the children. So, I mean, your body is really degraded for a long time when you have children. So, of course.
Well, that's it. And again, this is issues that men probably never, ever, ever fully understand. And the same goes as for women, this whole thing of why don't men talk to me? That kind of thing. Why
you can't understand what you haven't seen.
Exactly.
That married at first sight stuff, that's what they whinge about, isn't it? Oh, he doesn't talk to me. Non-talkative type, but he wants to do work, he wants to, build her a garden or some shit. He's just not going to share all the compliments.
And there you go. It's right out and open. It's on public television. You can see it fucking unfolding. That is the reality that, a guy simply wants to make sure whoever he has under his care is looked after. And everything else is put to a side. That's the mentality I've realized with myself. As a male, I understand that about myself.
Speaking of which, mate, I hope obviously your girlfriend is feeling better than she did last time.
Yeah, that's a whole different issue, and I won't go into that today. But
I obviously wish her all the best, mate.
Yeah, I know, mate.
For obviously you, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, I feel like everyone can kind of, especially these radical groups, need to take a step back and just kind of listen,
Well, they're not prepared to, though, mate. That's what I'm trying to say to you. You and my older mate. Obviously, I love you guys, but you don't see that they really are the enemy of our civilization.
Well, I stay positive when I see that they're not gaining members. Another thing in the interview I saw today was it has to be a repeated thing. He was talking about marriage, Jordan Peterson, that marriage is a set of interactions. So it's not just like, how do you make a good marriage? Well, you've got to, meet up.
Compromise.
Put things together. You've got to work out what your jobs are in the house. And then it has to get repeated. And
you have to be heading, I think, in the right direction. So the same direction as well. The same direction. Yeah.
And as of anything that us humans, we get bored easy. So from that point of view, you've got to know when to change it up a little bit, make it interesting, to keep it fresh. Otherwise, it becomes a stagnant routine.
Yeah, that's right.
And relating it back to these leftist groups, because I feel extremely unhappy in their company. Like when I met you, Troy, we had gone to their meeting about the protest, that they were going to protest Jordan Peterson, and I can't believe I got up and asked a question. I mean, because I was just so shocked that they were going to, like you said, protest this man who was a boring psychologist. And it was such a kind of a hostile, well, they were trying to be, because then people were directing their questions to me. I was the woman from the suburbs. I'm like, well, I live in the suburbs. I'm not in the city. This is how people are. We don't care about this stuff. He's obviously helping people because a lot of people have mental health problems. Why are we protesting him? I understand why we would protest, that guy that keeps getting punched in the face, Spencer.
Oh, yeah, Richard Spencer.
Yeah, I'm like, I can understand why you would.
I've got to go, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry to kept you, man.
No, it's all right. It's all good. Thanks for hearing me out, and I'll look forward to next time. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Always enjoy talking to you, man.
All right. See ya.
See you, Marky.
Bye.
Yeah. Sorry that Marky had to go, guys. Because obviously I enjoyed that.
We'll finish at about 9.
Yeah. I reckon. Would you guys like to obviously, because I know that I talked obviously a fair bit there. So would you like to respond to what I obviously have been saying?
Well, I don't mind that we kind of flip back and forth. I mean, it seems like we don't get everything out, and I forget, what we were talking about. And I was thinking about this group, that what's good is that we just get to say something, and it's never going to be, well, not never, exactly what we need to say. In a year from now, we could really articulate everything perfectly and have, I don't know if I'm looking for perfection or just to get it out, or like to get out the both sides or all the sides, as Mark was saying, like
yeah. I kind of like to use what's it called, like, because I wouldn't say that obviously I'm authoritarian right, because like I don't at all agree that with like what's it called, like a monarchy in terms of like obviously pre-Soviet Russia of one family owning all the wealth. I certainly don't agree with that. But like I like the idea of obviously the authoritarian right like governs on behalf of the libertarian right and left. Well, I can see that might not necessarily go obviously how I idealistically envision it, if you get what I'm saying.
Are you saying you like that?
I like the idea of pretty much like I'd said, the people that don't let the libertarian right and the libertarian left live their lives. I like the idea of those people that pretty much want to stop that, get taken out, and obviously everyone is left to be able to live their life freely as they should be able to.
So do you say like the authoritarian right are like the corporate?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I am authoritarian right, because like I'd said, I definitely don't support like obviously the royal family reigns supreme and has all the wealth or anything like that. I certainly don't agree with that. They
don't seem to anyway. It seems to be just corporations. And do we even know? I think economics should be taught, up there with history, kind of in that equal level. Like a lot of young people seem to know a lot about economics, which is good.
Yeah.
There's so much debating and stuff going on. I just like watching the back and forth. But then, I seem to get a lot of information about it, but not exactly what I want, and maybe economics isn't something I'll ever grasp.
Did you see that that fire rant that Bill Maher gave? About equal outcome. And the Grammys. And if you watch the Grammys, that is the total opposite of equal outcome, because obviously that's a celebration of meritocracy.
Yeah.
Because obviously these people, these artists,
Talent.
are being awarded for being elite in their field. Not just better than some, but better than almost everyone.
So was that about diversity, the whole argument?
No, that was anti, equal outcome rant that Bill Maher went on,
the Grammys,
which was great.
About representing all the groups, was that?
But they'll just pop 500 mil out here and there, all the different people, and for some reason that cancels their elitism to the left.
What did they?
Like, so Pink will donate 500,000, Nicole Kidman, or 500,000, or $1 million, or whatever they did.
To
they're
who?
doing to Black Lives Matter. I think quite a number of them donated.
Oh, the Grammys is music.
Or
yep.
but Pink donated 500, I think, to their baby. So as long as they're doing that, somehow they're not elite. So they're helping to inspire or to.
Yeah, they're pretty much watching, the Grammys because they agree with their virtue signaling. But
Exactly.
obviously, the premise of it, obviously, how it's set up, the layout or whatever format, is that it's anything but equal outcome, because obviously you are awarding people for being, like I'd said, the best in the world in their field.
Mm. And Pink has nothing much to say anyway in her music. It's not like real artistry. It's pop music.
Yeah, and I mean, it was such a great rant. I mean, he ranted obviously about how obviously bad degeneracy is as well. So it really was an on point rant. And the other thing he said as well, of course, is, well, it's even better now than it was before, because obviously they've pretty much removed gatekeeping. We pretty much have equal access now, or equal accessibility, because everyone can listen to your music. But obviously the reason your music isn't getting streamed is because people don't like it. They don't like listening to it.
Yeah.
And amusingly, the gap has actually increased, in terms of, the outcomes, that obviously everyone loves listening to, obviously, the best music.
I mean, there's good music out there now, but it seems like everyone's just trying to have a career, and music should be, even movies are more commercialized than music. Music's meant to be really, rebellious. Music was always like against
the counterculture.
Now it's, counterculture is a good word, isn't it? And now musicians are just, rock stars annoy me more than most groups. Like, I think that's where my snobbery, if I'm going to be a snob elitist, it's about music. Because
did you hear about that rock band where was it the lead singer? He read a book, and because obviously that book criticized Antifa. He was, shunned or, disrespected, obviously, by his, band members.
Yeah, who is it?
Who was it?
And it was so Stalinist, as Bill Maher said himself.
They're the hipsters. Their albums were shit. Yeah, Mumford and Sons. It's funny because, like, if they were really good musicians, if it was, I don't know, something like Radiohead, they started off quite pop and then they became really obscure and cool. But Mumford and Sons, that's who you're talking about, I'm pretty sure, Troy.
It was that the band?
Yeah, Mumford and Sons, a guitarist or something.
They made him leave. Is that right?
Oh, I don't know about that. Twitter, I don't like Twitter, but somehow Twitter is where the most vitriol is. And he's just copying shit, and they're just attacking their music now, which I agree, that their music became commercialized, but that's nothing to do with his point of view. He's just saying,
I mean, you can read any book that you like. Obviously, who's
happening sometimes. Yeah.
who has the right to stop you? Whose right is it to stop you?
Well, the article I read, it said, well, he did like Jordan Peterson 3 years ago, and then a year ago, he tweeted this, and then then he's read this book. I think the book reading was very recent. And the books are starting to be more.
Got to start collecting them. Put them all under lock and key.
Yeah, but they seem to be more bold now. The book titles, and the people we're following. The I don't know. He was raising money for his film.
Yeah, Travis Brown.
God, I can't remember my point.
I mean, it's very reactionary, obviously from my point of view, because I'm seeing it, well, to me, for sustainability purposes, it has to be that way kind of thing, that their oppression, isn't so much necessary now. It's a necessity, because if you don't, then obviously, they're going to continue being like this, if you get what I'm saying.
Well, that's the trans debate is heating up because now the policies are coming. They're in the, like the policy about trans women in sport is coming to a head. So the trans have to up their kind of.
Yeah.
So the whole fight, it's like a war. I find it really exciting kind of thing. But that's
because I'm pretty much that they want to obviously, have control of absolutely everything. That's why they will not be content with being the dominant culture or the counterculture, because they want to be the entire culture.
Yeah, it was just fun to be on the edge because we knew that the mainstream weren't going to accept, different gender expressions.
Well, I mean, is it really okay for someone that's really, a guy to obviously, beat up a biological woman? No, I don't think it is. I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's fair.
Oh, what, in sport?
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Well, yeah, this is so interesting, and this trend.
I don't think it's okay for a 50-year-old 7-foot male to be playing basketball with 15-year-old girls. I don't think that's okay.
We want to accept trans women, but the sports, if we kick them out, we are admitting that they're not women. And I'm like, well, that's what's going to happen, because the sports thing is so practical because they are physically not the same as women on average. There's lots of trans, but I don't know, in sports, it's different because they're competitive people, it's this elitist thing. Sports is just so different to just the other issues around trans, but it's going to come to a head. It has to. Like the Olympics, is it next year? We're going to start seeing
this year in Tokyo, because it was supposed to be last year.
Yeah, it's in one of those towns where I think like Hiroshima.
Tokyo.
It's in Tokyo, is it?
In Japan, yeah.
Yeah, they've mentioned some town. I think where some huge thing happened, like a tsunami or something, and it's.
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, in Asia.
Yeah, and I just find it exciting. Like I'm feeling more sorry for trans people because now I understand, even though it's true that they shouldn't be in sport, they are going to be walking down the street and some average prick is going to either verbally or, physically abuse them. That's just how humans are in the world. The mob.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not really pro-trans, but obviously I agree they're people, and obviously
they're humans, like all of us.
Be treated with dignity, And
I can't understand why you can be born in a body and you don't just accept it. Like I just completely accepted who I was, but it's based on what other people thought of me. That's why I don't understand the self-identity stuff, because
my older mate explained to me it's like a fault when they're being created, obviously when they're in the womb, and that like their brain, I think he said, is created before their body. And that is how, obviously they basically, their mind is obviously out of sync with their body.
Yeah. So there is a scientific element, which I wish they would just research it without, the fear. I think they have. It's all about ethics, in research. I think it's difficult to just grab all the trans people and start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I certainly don't obviously believe they should be having sex changes until they're at the very least 18, if not 21.
You know how there's meant to be 4 ways that you identify that you can be different, and it's like chromosomes. What is it? Chromosomes, secondary sex, hormones, physical.
I mean, I don't believe they can ever really be, the gender that they want to be. I don't believe that can really ever biologically happen, because,
that's
to
what
me,
they want. They want to be called a woman in every sense. They don't understand that women, there is a difference between men and women, and
because if you're a biological
we have
male,
periods. That's a whole experience in itself.
Yeah, if you're a biological male and you have a sex change and you become a woman, I don't think that you can ever have a period.
No. And then the way you're sexualized, for some reason, girls, being pretty, dolls, prettiness and softness, and that just gets drummed into you. And that I'm just, having my kids, I watch how other parents are, like they're, I don't know if this is my kids call retarded a slur, but there's no other word to describe. I don't know, even like my mum, she's great. She's such a rebel. But when my kids were growing up, she would just go, "That's pretty. You're so pretty. So pretty."
Well, 18 to 25, that is, I mean, obviously I know, don't generalize too much kind of thing, but like it is said that is obviously when, women are at pretty much the peak of their powers, their pinnacle, that the world is at their doorstep sort of thing, if you remember that. Like she'll never have so many opportunities.
At what, sorry, what age? 18?
18 to 25.
Yeah. I mean, I can only, my experience
say
is
25 to 35.
Yeah, didn't they say?
Well, I'm just going on what I've heard,
Yeah, no, I can understand why they might say that, but I wouldn't agree.
Yeah, because obviously, they're youthful, they have their baby face.
Oh, I think I probably did.
I mean, I think, you have your baby face till you're 35, but,
I think I what's the word? I misused the power I had. I didn't know how to use it. And a lot of girls are, and I don't know if I'm a smart person. I can't really retain information.
I think 25 to 35 is more like, I think, of course, that's when you're, more mature, of course, that age bracket.
Your power as a woman, as an 18-year-old, you're basically still a giggling schoolgirl. I find it difficult that we'd have any power to believe that we've got power at 18.
Oh, physical attractiveness.
No, everything. They're so confident. Attractiveness, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely had the power. The kind of men I pursued were highly intellectual.
I can't understand that now, though, because I'm over 45. Only just. But if I look at an 18-year-old boy, I just go, that's a child and needs to change his nappy. So I don't understand how people can say that an 18-year-old girl, like, if say a 45, 50-year-old male can look and say an 18-year-old girl is attractive. I know they do, so I'm not going to pretend that I don't do that. But like, I, as a mother, I just think she needs her nappy changed, or someone that I still see a child at 18. And when I look back when I was 18, I was a total child.
So, really? We moved out of home at 15 to 18 and we pretended we were adults. I think we lived pretty much like adults. Our parents were just never there. We had our friendship groups and all our dramas, and
because I think pretty much the idea is that pretty much you're chased, like that's the beginnings of you being wanted, because the idea is obviously to be so attractive at that stage for to start a relationship, and then obviously ideally marry, of course, and have kids.
Sure. So what's the idea? What's the man? I'm interested to know if the male has.
Oh, I'm just telling you that's what I heard
You
being
guys
said. I couldn't even tell you exactly where it was that I heard that, but I thought, well, that logically makes a lot of sense, because she's very attractive in that age bracket.
Yeah. Well, years ago, it used to be, we used to hear the sexual peak was 18 for men and 40 for women.
40, yeah.
That's
the sexual peak.
I'd say
40 for women.
True.
How bizarre is that?
That's totally different to what I'm aware of, familiar with,
But no, it's not bizarre because from the collective women experience, you are sexualized from a very young age.
Because isn't 40 when you're running out of eggs at 40?
But at 12,
50,
12, 13, people are making comments about you. Like I don't know how many men are aware of normal men, the world.
So sorry, did you say 15, did you?
50.
12 to 13.
12 to 13, right, yeah.
12 to 13, you're in the shopping centre and this is just abnormal people, because most people are normal, but there's enough idiots that will come and check out a girl of 12 or 13
Absolutely.
or stare at you. And this is what the feminists are saying that men in general do, but we all seem to have had experiences where, a bus driver once told me to come up and sit next to him. There was no one else on the bus, and that's
when you were 12, 13.
Yeah, 12, 13.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had a carload of guys pull over while I was walking home from school, 12 or 13. And I don't know, maybe they thought I was 15 or 16, but they were like, do you want any speed? Let's party or something.
Really?
I was just like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
So, I don't think there's anything more uncomfortable than obviously an attractive underage girl. Like there can be nothing more uncomfortable than that, because you it's not right to be attracted to her.
Yeah. So this is late 80s. So
80s.
that's why I think 80s. There's 80s and 90s, and then there's now where I guess there's different challenges, like that. Extreme porn is available to everyone, and then you've got all the they always talk about the games. They're banning Dr.
You're still there?
Grand Theft Auto, where they're killing prostitutes and stuff because they don't want to pay them.
That 18, you said you heard when men are at their sexual peak, that's 18, and for women it's 40, yeah? Because I have seen obviously something like that. I haven't obviously heard that ever been said, but I've seen that kind of scenario, and obviously the 40-year-old woman is a cougar, of course, because of the fact that obviously she's a lot older than obviously the boy.
40, it's when you look after yourself as well.
Yeah, well, you're middle-aged, you're halfway through your life.
Mid-aged. I'm trying to change that one.
I reckon middle age is like 50. Even though I've only got 4 years to go, I feel like there's a lot's going to happen until I'm 50.
We're so different to the 40-year-olds when we were little. The 40-year-olds were like,
ancient, yeah.
They wore weird clothes. They looked really much older and things.
Maybe they
were. The life expectancy is like 80, 84. So that's why I was saying,
it's probably true now about 18-year-old women, because they are sexually confident. I went out with 21-year-olds, and the way they were handling men coming onto them, I was very impressed. We had one girl with us that was just model gorgeous. The other girls were very cute and pretty. And, I was I was overweight and old. So
I think the other reason why 18 to 25 is seen as
men, but then they would sleep with one girl's just, pashing on in the middle of, I was embarrassed for a little while, but
yeah,
that's how they are.
I think the other reason why 18 to 25 women are said to, obviously be at their physical peak, is because of the fact that, they got their whole life ahead of them, I think that's the other reason why it's perceived, that's when they are, at their peak.
Well, it should be
kind
true.
Of thing.
I don't know about the.
If you know what I'm saying, because obviously they're at the very, beginning of their adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a lot of confidence.
So there's, you know, a lot of potential that they have, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying, because they don't obviously they're not experienced at 18, you know, and they probably their brain hasn't, you know, like developed as fast as their body. So obviously they're not really sure how to deal with obviously the opportunities coming their way yet, you know, coming at them.
I'm not sure. Yeah. Like 15, you'd start dating. I reckon there's all these statistics about they seem low, like 20
Dating at school, you mean?
20 to 50% had already had sex, but it was year 10, year 9 and 10. That's pretty average.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that sounds about right, actually. I remember some people going out with each other then.
It could be 50%, but it seemed low by 15. I don't know what people are so upset about. Kids are experimenting, but yeah, they're worried about the same thing that I just wonder why boys are still seen as dominating, because they've got these old-fashioned parents that are still doing the same thing. This is what Jordan Peterson was saying, that it seems like the leftist world is true, but we're actually still living quite a conservative existence when you look at people our age that have kids. They've got their bloody fake four-wheel drives in the suburbs, soccer mums, the Karens. They're all the mums, and they're still conservative. They're still kind of whinging about things instead of, I don't know.
I don't know how mum managed to, you know, for a first political ideology to still be conservative. I don't know how she managed that.
Out of what?
You know, my mum's first political ideology pretty much has basically been the same as it is now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she's always been conservative.
Oh.
I don't know how she managed that, you know, because I can't at all say the same was, you know, for me, you know, like when I was 16, 17, you know, like I was, you know, like a dirty commie kind of thing, you know. But obviously, as I got older, obviously, you know, I also kind of, to be honest, at the very beginning, you know, it was really, you know, pretty much out of spite for myself, you know. That's kind of where it started, and then obviously, you know, it was also pretty much, you know, that everyone else basically is, you know, is more important than you, you know. So that's pretty much like how it basically started, you know, for me in terms of like pretty much the conversion, if you get what I'm saying. Because yeah, I used to pretty much, you know, like you know, back when I was, you know, late teens, you know, like very, very late teens, you know, early 20s, I pretty much basically sided with whatever party pretty much managed the economy the best, that I saw manage the economy the best, you know. And you know, obviously in Australia, you know, looking at the pretty much just going off the spreadsheet, you know, obviously you know, obviously Liberals producing better numbers, you know, statistics. And then in America, I thought pretty much that, you know, it was the Democrats that was doing that, you know, that were doing that.
Really?
And so, yeah, like it wasn't until pretty much like late 2016, when I was no longer, you know, pretty much a one-eyed Democrat supporter, you know, because Hillary's campaigning was so awful. You know, I think that if Obama ran for a third term, I think I would have voted for him over Trump.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but, you know, because it basically, you know, pretty much really, what really basically started it for me was, you know, Hillary came out with those literal women cards. You remember that? Literal women cards?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, she came out with the literal, you know, the literal women cards, and Shu, you know, did obviously a video on obviously how awful it was. And like her campaigning was just so uninspirational.
Vote for her because she's a woman.
Yeah.
She's very arrogant as well. She's presuming that she's got it in the bag.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was just so underwhelmed by her campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so in love with Bernie, so I followed that whole thing from where it seemed like they didn't want him, they wanted her.
Yeah.
And he would have, but even now they'll ask Trump supporters about Democrats that they may have voted for, and they'll mention Bernie Sanders like a lot of the time. That if he was in, they'd probably have considered him. But he seems to say the same thing. Well, I don't know. I've just stopped following them.
Well, I mean, socialism doesn't even work in his own campaign. He's not paying his staff the very minimum wage that obviously he wants to implement. It's not working in his own campaign.
I was saying that about the Greens, that it's like they can't hide from any question now, which is sort of good. Like,
yeah,
Greens were asking for volunteers, and it's like, well, why are you asking for volunteers? Aren't you a legitimate party? And they're trying to paint themselves as a grassroots movement, but then they're saying, no, we are just as great as any large political party.
Well, then obviously you should be put under just as much scrutiny. Then you should be held, just as accountable. And I mean, I pretty much see them as the watermelon party, because they're, green on the outside, obviously the environmental party, and obviously red on the inside because of the cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
Is it time for you to go now? Is that what that was? Yeah. Sorry about that, Maureen.
No,
but obviously I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, obviously, for the 2 hours that I have.
I'd like to say next week we should do it. It's funny how
I enjoy these so much, I was obviously down that, obviously we hadn't done it for a while.
Yeah, well, it's good to think about all the different reasons why because I kind of look at myself in the videos and go, God, I'm awkward and even stupid, I'll tell myself, but it's all not true, I'm learning. Like,
oh no, of course not. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, my interest isn't in. I would like to be a confident YouTuber or whatnot. It's just ego, and then that definitely the Tyler experience, which was a good experience. I had to really accept that I don't articulate well, and I didn't, I didn't know it was going to be.
Oh well, I think he was like the right wing equivalent of pretty much what I complain about. Obviously, the top left hand corner, obviously, not really interested in nuance and just interested in the fact that these women obviously, are aborting their babies.
Yeah, for an issue like that, like it doesn't fit his way of debating.
Yeah. Just before we end it, I'd like to say that Lydia Thorpe is inferior to the kangaroo eating piece of shit guy that was obviously Senator, when Tony Abbott was Prime Minister. You remember that? Lydia Thorpe. She's legit inferior to that. I wish just in a Price one, obviously that lower house seat, in the Northern Territory. God, I really, I think she's got a great brain.
What's her name?
Jacinta Price.
Oh yeah, Jacinta.
Yeah. Obviously, I was, canning Lydia Thorpe. It's just so so I know that I haven't given you the wrong name. Thought you were asking the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you say.
Yeah. But I know Jacinta Price, but I'll look at.
Yeah. She's the one I admire, I respect, and Lydia Thorpe is the one that I don't. Well, and Lydia Thorpe is more white than she is. So.
If you're in the Greens, you're just not going to be a reasonable person. Like I don't usually think this black and white, but the Greens Party. Well, I don't know enough about them, but I just haven't heard anything reasonable.
Yeah, because I mean, like she said that Eddie Maguire's tears were white tears, and he was talking about genuine beneficial change, that he was making, getting women their own footy league, and I think he said he did it during Pride Week. That should have given extra credit for that.
As he is, he's just an Aussie dude into football. Like,
exactly, and trivia, general knowledge.
that whole who was the Aboriginal player that the whole saga
You thinking of
started?
Adam Goods?
Yeah, did you what? There was 2 different documentaries. One of them was just so good, so chilling, but it had what's his Eddie Maguire. His story, I found it touching, how these Aussie men that are kind of a bit dumb, a bit, what's the word, dense. Eddie Maguire went through a whole transformation there. I mean, such a fucking idiot. But then he came out the other side,
Well,
and
Eddie Maguire used to be
we
poor.
we did,
We
gave
in
him
the what's called
forgiveness.
grew up in Broadmeadows, poor.
Broadie, yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a Broadie boy, and obviously, he's done very well, to come where he has, and like I said, that was real, genuine, beneficial change that obviously he, certainly the very least helped create, obviously, for the, it's very demographics.
Well, Lydia Thorpe Northcote, okay, there you go.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. But yeah, I mean, she's so awful, and she, disses white people, and she's so white. She says she's black. She's the whitest black woman I've ever seen in my life.
It is legitimate to say, like I was listening to them going, it doesn't matter whether they look white. She belongs to their culture. Okay, fair enough. But she's not going to walk down the street and get called names like Aboriginal people get, because they have black skin. She doesn't have the black skin. That's what you're saying.
Well, she's not black to me. Like, I see that she's very white.
She looks Mediterranean. Like, I've tried to justify that I'm not white. I'm Maltese.
But I mean, you shouldn't be ashamed of obviously the skin color you were born with, or the genitalia you were born with. That's just what you are. Who you are is obviously what matters, is what's important.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't go into the Black Lives Matter stuff as much because, although I'm willing to, definitely, but because it's not in my experience, I suppose. But that's why it'd be good to have black people. Like we're women, obviously, and we've had the experiences growing up as girls. Yeah. I think because I was a shy girl, I got particularly bad experiences, but I was quite lucky as well, and having good parents that
it helps a lot. Yeah,
but
I mean,
a black person, I would like to hear their experiences. Do you?
I think some of obviously, you go on the case scenarios. So some of the case scenarios, obviously, those people, obviously, definitely very unlucky, and obviously others, totally illegitimate. I mean, BLM is pretty much just, the reaction to it, the emotional incontinence to it, that, oh, black man's been shot by the police, and they'll just be outraged by it. They don't care, obviously, what the case scenario is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine that because we don't even have black neighborhoods like America.
Yeah.
We're in Victoria. I feel like I don't know anything about Aboriginal people. But God, I was watching Alice Springs
that's right, because obviously they tend to be in the Northern Territory.
Well, the whole of Alice Springs is under, like the residents just go into their homes and lock the door. In the town of Alice Springs, there's gangs just taking over the streets. There's every single night, there's big brawls, and even just regular kids standing around that trying to just hang out. They're getting like physically assaulted in pretty big ways. You see that the random kids standing around are the ones getting hit by things.
Yeah.
And the police can't lock them up because, it's culturally inappropriate
But they're hurting their own community.
Yeah, I just can't believe that business owners, there was a pub there that got broken into 100 times. And then I just turned and went, why the fuck are you still there? Like I feel sorry for the town. Then I hear that and I go, nah, No, why are you there? That's stupid.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. Some of the stories, you know, especially. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I thought I lost you then, and my apologies for keeping you.
No,
but,
yeah, that's all
but
right.
yeah, I mean, obviously they have like some of course have an alcohol abuse problem, and obviously, you know, their kids
I think
unfortunately,
they like
you
the
know,
gang
feel the
stuff.
brunt of that.
They like the gang. They identify with the kind of African American gang style living.
Well, I think
They're
that's
pretty bored.
more.
They
I
don't feel-
think that's more the leftists here trying to trying to feel like they have relevance. You know, solidarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more a case of that, you know, than anything.
Yeah, but if these business owners are going to stay in Alice Springs and then the police can't keep underage kids locked up because they know that 8-year-olds were breaking into this business. 8-year-olds whose parents were probably probably, you know, out of it on something because, you know, there's the ice culture. It's not just alcohol anymore. I heard that ice is just rampant now through Aboriginal communities.
Yeah, and I really hope that gets solved, you know, because I want everyone, you know, obviously the human race as a whole, you know, to have obviously, you know, the most happy, successful life possible.
Yeah, but I reckon if all the businesses just packed up, you know, fuck Alice Springs, okay? They don't know how to run it, how to keep these gangs off the street. And so you just leave and just let the town fall to ruin, and then the problem will get solved.
Yeah.
People will
I mean, it has to be so bad that obviously they want it to change, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, why the hell would you just open your business again, you know, the next day, knowing that you could just get
attacked again? Yeah.
Again and again and again, over 100 times. Like that.
Yeah.
That's worse than the gangs. Like I just see if you, I don't know, you're an average.
Well, I mean, it's you know, counterproductive, isn't it? You know.
I'm just like, what the hell are they doing? Like, I don't know. It's just Australians can be just, and I mean, you know, all cultures. We can just be so.
Well, I didn't think that we really tolerated, obviously, pillaging. You know, that as soon as it pretty much starts, we shut it down. You know, we call the police.
Yeah, but yeah, because it's the race thing.
Yeah, because America obviously tolerate it a hell of a lot more than we do. You know, certainly, you know, in obviously the democratic strongholds, you know, like Portland, Oregon, you know, where it's been happening for like 8 months, you know, or you know, Minnesota, Minneapolis, you know, apparently that's been burnt down 14 times now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Salty was just over exaggerating, you know, but that's still very serious, you know.
What there was like mass burnings.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got nowhere else to go. I mean, I just don't know why you would tolerate it. Or do you just become a martyr and go, oh, yeah, this is me, this is my life now?
Are they restocking their stores and they're getting reloaded?
Yeah, they're getting pillaged.
They have to feed people. America has so many people in each town compared to they've got 300 million.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in America. I don't at all believe that it's, you know, I don't believe at all that it's even remotely racist, you know, more racist. I mean, certainly, you know, it's not more racist than it was in 1963, you know, because obviously Stevie Wonder couldn't have won 29 Grammys otherwise, you know. But I think America certainly produces crazy. You know, I wouldn't really personally want to live there, you know, especially with, you know, their weak infrastructure as well, and they don't have universal healthcare there.
Upper East Coast would be nice. That kind of, what do they call it? New York State.
They also have, you know, I don't know about necessarily the worst weather conditions, but, you know, certainly natural disasters, you know, are very bad, you know, and I think the Midwest of America, you know, like twisters, you know, those twisters they get, you know, cyclones, tornadoes.
And the snow.
Yeah.
We don't get
that's right, Northern America. Yeah, so I wouldn't at all feel safe living there. You know, I think I'm a lot safer living here.
Well, yeah, there's off-grid communities, off-grid Facebook pages, and the biggest question is like, which state should I live in? And it'll be related to weather, and also permits are all different. So
yeah,
some states are allowed to build without permits, stuff like that. And
yeah. Well, I think Florida, you know, is the best. You know, has the best governor. You know, Ron DeSantis. I really like how he's been, you know, going. You know, just having the pillagers obviously shot on sight, and last 9 months he's had 700,000 private sector jobs created. You know, considering the fact that we're in a global pandemic, you know, that's an unbelievable achievement. You know, imagine what it would be if there wasn't a pandemic.
Okay, yeah. What was it, Florida? Yeah, that seemed like a very drug-riddled state. Maybe they're trying to clean it up or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the elderly go to retire there.
Yeah,
you know, because of the warm weather, of course.
Well, they'd have tax money.
As well as the fact that Florida's a swing state. So obviously it's up for grabs, you know. So I think obviously both sides would try harder to obviously run that place well or decently, if you get what I'm saying.
And those states that legalized homelessness, God, could they have not foreseen, you know, if you make it legal to live in a tent on the street, that all of the neighboring states are going to, their homeless population are just going to move to your state and set up camp in them.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, California, you know, it's pretty much California, you know, San Francisco, they shit in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and have tents.
Well, because they're allowed to. So it's not just that the homeless population has got worse and there's more drugs. It's just that all the homeless people from other places just went there because they were going to be like, what did they think was going to happen? Like in Portland.
Yeah.
What did they think setting up that autonomous zone, that the homeless people and drug addicts?
Oh, that was in Seattle, Washington State.
I'm thinking Portland. Yeah.
Because I know, obviously, when I first said that, you might think Washington, D.C.
But Portland has a massive Antifa presence.
Yeah, that's right.
But they're burning down Portland. But in Seattle is where they had the autonomous zone,
Yeah, that's right.
Junkies there.
Yeah, yeah, you were right. It was obviously the same coast, you know, the West Coast, but yeah, just a bit more north.
They weren't burning down Seattle. They were just...
They ran out of food on day 2.
Really? Of Chaz?
Yeah, that's right.
But then they were promoting or showing... I watched a lot of video of... I tried to look for unbiased people, but...
Yeah.
Or, you know, I tried to watch both sides, but yeah, one side was like all these donations of food. But then you're kind of going, well, that's not sustainable. People were just sending in food. Surely they're not going to do that forever anyway.
I don't think it could have been any more communist than what it was, you know, like 100% dependent on obviously the other states.
Refrigeration, and they were just had a school set up, and what, you're just handing it out for free, and you're expecting people to reciprocate somehow. It's like
and I think they shot like half a dozen black people as well, and like that was the whole point of setting that thing up, was, you know, in the name of black people.
Well, I think, you know, well, because the problem of what seems, from what I've heard of other people, you know, black conservatives, is that black people are terrorizing their own people. They've got lots of gangs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they just moved in because there was no cops. So of course you're going to have the criminals just come in and take over.
Yeah.
Instead
well,
of going,
you know,
we're going to be, who was it, the mayor, that woman that came and said, oh, it's just a big love fest.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't stop until they obviously visited her house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, so...
Turned on her. she didn't give them enough.
Yeah.
They didn't get it quick enough, whatever they were demanding.
Yeah, she could have easily stamped that out earlier, but I don't think that she wanted to, because I think that it was like a destabilization process, you know, so that Trump would lose, obviously, you know, last year's election.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we better stop it because we're gonna.
Yeah, I'm
Sounds
sorry
like we're
for
starting a new.
extending it, Maureen. But anyway, do take that as a compliment of obviously how much I enjoy, obviously, you know, what you're doing here.
Yeah, this is part of it, that we're enjoying it. That's, I mean, I obviously wasn't coping with. It's not that we're engaging in conflict. It's we are a bit vulnerable because we're. To me, it's like I don't care about people that don't even watch anyway. Fuck that. There's like 40 to 100 people that may or may not be interested, but to me, our little group that is changing. There's quite a few people that want to join, and that's all that's important is for us. And I like the recording part is to kind of help us not be so afraid, you know, we're not having a private conversation. We know that we're putting it out there, and
spitballing.
I don't hope anymore for people watching it. It's just that seems to be part of, you know, and like Kate is a great.
Yeah, I hope that I was hoping to talk to her actually about what she had been saying about you know, Christian Porter. I mean, I don't want to obviously, you know, be attacking her or anything like that when she isn't here, but I was hoping to talk to her about due process, because she didn't seem to be pro that, you know, guilty because accused kind of thing.
All right. I'd like to say next week, I'd like to push myself and say we'll do it in a week instead of a fortnight, but it's good. There was 4 of us. It's a different dynamic, and when Kate's back, and
yeah, well, I will be able to ask her about that then. But yeah, I was thinking she was going to be joining in later, but obviously I took it from what I'd read that obviously she wasn't able to do that tonight.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, let's do it next Sunday night, and I'll try for 6.
Yeah, that'd be great, because obviously Mark will be able to talk to us longer. Yeah. Thanks very much, Maureen. I really appreciate obviously what you've been doing for us, obviously, you know, for all this time.
Yeah, you kind of pushed to kind of keep it going. I mean, I know everyone likes it, but yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sorry about obviously, you know, what you had to deal with, of course, as well.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's good to have gotten over it and come out more relaxed, because I get quite socially anxious, so I can see that I'm just learning to just relax in my thinking and just, you know, not take other people's dramas, or, well, it's all about conflict, you know, not take it on. We're all individuals.
Yeah, that was very weird, obviously, you know, what you were telling me about. I'm very sorry, obviously, that you know, she was so deranged.